are back again with you live from the LinkedIn Hub right here at the Times Center for day 4 of Advertising Week. And I am sitting down with Matt Gay. He's the Senior Director of Accenture Interactive. Yep. Matt, nice to have you. We're approaching the end of the day, so I'm glad we got to sit down and talk.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
And you and I were chit-chatting about, you know, the whole element that we often tend to forget when we think data and programmatic and the advent of all this technology is that ultimately we're talking about human beings.
That's exactly
We're talking about humans, whether in the B2B space or in the B2C space or whatever, it's human beings that are making decisions and how do we reach them. And so I think that one thing we've spoken about extensively throughout this week is in this world that's changing so quickly, how do we make sure to be able to build a better way of reaching our consumers in terms of a relationship, in terms of engaging messaging, and not just the old way of, you know, buy this, as we were saying. So
you know, I think what happens, and we talked about this earlier, right? A lot of our industry does a lot of navel gazing, right? They're interested in, they're into the latest shiny object and the latest acronym, and you know, and what have you. And right, programmatic and data are two of those big ones. And I think what people need to remember is those are tools, and you know, you need carpenters to use those tools. Data is a big opportunity and a big problem right now, and you know, programmatic, I'm not sure where it is on the the hype cycle, so to speak.
Pretty high.
But yeah, it is pretty high. Yes, I think we've passed the trough of disillusionment, and now we're on the way up. But those are all tools and ways of doing business. But to your point earlier, there's human beings on both sides, right? We are advertising to humans. Businesses are run by humans, and people in this industry, you know, are humans. And I think what happens as well. Well, we're building bots. No, that's okay. Virtual reality is on its way, right?
I did interview a robot yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was awesome. He said, forget the 3 C's. Mine is 3 B's. Buy, buy, buy. I was like, excellent.
All right, it sounds like a robot.
It was very sarcastic, and you know, just about this industry. Anyway, go on.
Oh no, I think I actually saw that he was wearing skinny jeans, right? Which is the uniform, right? It's the skinny jeans, the black jacket, all that good stuff. Big watches used to be in fad. You know, at the end of the day, you're trying to connect with people, and while there are many emerging and fantastic and wonderful technology. Virtual reality is the next one that everybody is talking about, right?
I know.
But you know, that's lower on the cycle, and that will have its day, you know, as well. But where I think that we kind of sometimes lose our way or reduce our priority is on the content. And you know, somebody said to me years ago when I joined this industry, content is king. And I didn't really understand what that meant. But then when you get lost in this, you know, ocean of terms and technologies and business processes and technologies, you know, you really understand that, you know, people really need to be investing in content. And it's not only long form content like, you know, TV shows and webisodes and all that kind of stuff, but it's also advertising. And I've always thought of advertising as content. You're showing it to people. So it's not an ad, it's not a 30-second spot, it's not a banner ad. You're creating content for somebody because hopefully you're entertaining them, right? Because do you like to watch stuff where you're not entertained?
Oh, all the time.
All the time you do? Oh, you're one of them.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, programmatic will take care of you.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yes. You know, but people want to be entertained and they want relevant information, right?
Yes.
And, you know, and that's where data comes in, and to some degree, you know, programmatic. And I don't mean to downplay those. Those are
like you said, they're great tools.
Huge. They're fuel, and you know, and they're tools. And you know, to some degree, that's holding, you know, some things back. You know, we can talk about data, you know, more in a little while. But you know, to your question, it's really about you have to create that engaging and relevant content.
And I think also another thing that we've talked about a lot is now you not only have to create that engaging content, but you have to do it across platforms. And across devices and everything, and still make sure it doesn't feel siloed, which is the problem. Like, we need a digital strategy, we need a mobile strategy. You know, well, you know, the person who's sitting there at home using all their devices and all these different channels isn't going, oh yes, of course, this is the
I'm going to go to my digital device. I'm going to go to my medium digital device and my big one. You know, because that thing hanging on your living room wall is a device, right? It's a screen.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. And I've been thinking about it, and I finally heard somebody say it out loud the other day, is that we keep talking about things like it's digital. Well, it's not digital anymore, right? It's just what it is, right? And that's the way, and that goes sort of across the board. But I still think we make this false demarcation between digital, linear, right? And you go into the TV world, we've got SVOD, PVOD.
I know, you're losing me now.
Right? You know, and you know, you've got you know, your DVR record, you know, you've got all this stuff. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a person that wants to watch what they want to watch, they want to be entertained, and they want it to be relative to what they're interested in. And we've seen this happen from print to television and television to digital, where you took print ads out of magazines, shrunk them down, and you stuck them on a web page, right? Not a lot of creativity going on. In the early days of digital video, and it's still going on, I'm still surprised, but we're repurposing 30-second spots from TV and 50-second spots from TV and putting them and calling it digital.
Digital content.
When you get to virtual reality, you're not going to have like a 30, now we interrupt this for, for this important message. It's about coming up with creative ways. So I'll add to just not only entertaining content in the right place, but it's also in the right form and format.
Right.
We're seeing that with mobile. We're seeing banner ads, right? You just click, trying to click away, and then you try to click it off, and you click on it, right? And then somebody's like, oh, look at all the engagement we have on mobile. Well, it was actually people with fat fingers trying to get rid of the damn ad.
And a tiny X.
And a tiny X. So, I would say that the switch to mobile, I think we're becoming a little bit more creative than we were from when we went to television to digital and print to digital. But I still think there's a long way to go, where advertising is part of the experience as opposed to an interruptive experience, which is what it is today.
I mean, that would be the ideal scenario, I think.
We can always dream.
We can, right. Yes. So we talked about data as a, obviously an amazing tool, and so much is being done in that space. That's and right. Everything. But you mentioned something which I thought was interesting, because I've talked about it a few times, is it's also a problem. So there is a downside to it.
Correct.
So when you say that, I want to hear your perspective on that. I'm wondering if it's going to be the idea that we are missing certain things, like that particular issue of, look at all the engagement when it's just people trying to. So I want to talk about some of the problems, or some of the maybe their growing pains, or whatever it is that needs to be ironed out before we can say we've really got this down.
I love that question. So, because people actually, I'll go one step further. Now everybody's talking about analytics, right? And it's the whole garbage in, garbage out scenario. Meaning, if you don't have and understand what your data is, if you analyze bad data, you're going to get bad analysis, right? So, getting data right is really hard, right? And it's not a sexy thing either, right? I mean, like, I'm going to go out and get all our data together, right? I mean, everybody wants to be focused on sort of all the other, all the other three-letter acronyms. But it's really hard, and data is in different places, in different formats, organized differently. For marketers and media companies alike, it needs to be consumable and then actionable, so we can apply it to what we talked about earlier. So I think where people are struggling is that it's a big technical problem, right? This is, it is a problem in media, but it's a problem that has happened. We've already solved this problem to some degree, so to speak, in many other industries, right? With all this data, all this information, to some degree it's industry agnostic. We have much more data for sure in the advertising and marketing world for sure, but the core fundamentals on how to manage data, right, have evolved, but they're still sort of the same. So I think the first step before you get into using data is, I've had these conversations with a lot of clients, is you have to understand what data you have. Some don't even know what they've got. If maybe they know what they've got, they don't know where it is. And then when they find it, they don't know exactly what to do with it. And by the way, it's spread out over different departments, groups, so on and so forth. And it's being used in 18 different ways, right? So we haven't even gotten to the point of how we use the data yet. It's just around getting it into a form and format that you can actually use it to better targeting, to provide better content, to provide better analytics and measures to actually improve the experience. So I personally am disappointed that we haven't, as an industry, really progressed the data thing. I feel like it should be a little bit further along, but it is what it is. And I think that's one of the things that we need to really focus on, is how do we get clean data, and then be able to use it. And the other part of that too is, I think people are just overwhelmed of it by the amount of data. So part of it is, you probably have data maybe you don't need to use it, you can cut it down, right? But I think people are a little bit paranoid that any piece of data I want to just grab and
it's a piece of data.
It's a piece of data, I better use it. And, so you have to go through that process as well about how you're going to actually use that data. And also, how is it different, right? Everybody's got data, right? I mean, your data is better than mine, but how do you really kind of prove that? And that's one of the challenges, right, is, differentiated data, but then also a differentiated way you use it as well.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, I hope that that's something we resolve, because I mean, even
Me
just
too.
from last year to this year, I've seen so much change in the way people are looking at things. There seems to be light bulbs that go on somewhere during the year, and when I come here, it's all of a sudden like, you won't believe.
You got it. Yeah.
You will not believe what we came up with this year.
Yeah.
So I hope that that is something that is worked out by next. Well, I don't know if it'll be worked out by next year, but I do hope that it's something that moves rather quick, because I think your whole 2 points of consumable and then actionable is really key in terms of, you know, great, we have it, let's use it right.
That's right.
I don't,
That's right.
I mean, as a consumer, I want to not be annoyed by ads.
Right.
I want, So anyway, thank you so much, Matt. There's not a whole lot left of advertising week, but whatever's left, enjoy. There's a wrap-up party and all kinds of cool stuff. And I hope we get to sit down next year and you will have solved the data problem.
Yes, sounds good, Maha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be back soon with more interviews live in the LinkedIn Hub right here on Advertising Week 13.